Hello, and welcome to The Brief Insight, your go to podcast for breaking down the latest trends, research, and policies shaping our world. Whether you're passionate about sustainability, global economics, or emerging innovations, this is where we simplify complex ideas to keep you informed and inspired. If you enjoy what you hear, don't forget to like this episode, subscribe to our channel, and share it with anyone looking for insights that matter. We're here every Monday and Friday, so hit that notification bell to stay updated. Your support helps us grow and continue bringing you sharp, relevant content that sparks conversation. Thank you for tuning into The Brief Insight. Now let's dive into today's topic.
Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah, always exciting to get into a new topic.
Definitely, and today we're tackling something pretty heavy but super important, sex tourism and sex trafficking.
Right. Definitely not a light subject.
No, but we've got some fascinating material to dig into.
Yeah, we do.
We've got some academic articles, a couple of in-depth reports, and even a website from the WellHouse.
Oh, wow. So the WellHouse.
Yeah, an
Ugh.
organization that works directly with survivals.
Wow. So we're getting like a real ground level perspective here.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the goal, to
Yeah.
kind of understand the global landscape of these issues
Right.
and hopefully come away with some actionable takeaways.
Yeah, I think that's really important. A lot of times people hear about these topics and they're just overwhelmed with like the bad news.
Absolutely.
So it's good to come away with some things that you can do.
Right. Like, what can we actually do about this?
Right.
It's not just about feeling bad. It's about understanding it and then seeing what we can do. So, one thing that struck me as I was reading through these sources was this idea of sex tourism being like woven into a destination's entire tourism strategy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just like, the shady back alleys.
Right. It's often like literally a part of the economy.
Right.
And marketed as part of the experience.
Right.
Which, raises all sorts of ethical questions.
For sure. So I guess before we get too far,
Yeah.
let's just define our terms here.
Okay.
Like sex tourism versus sex trafficking.
Right.
Is there always a clear line?
That's where it gets really tricky.
Yeah.
Because there's definitely a distinction between consensual sex work and exploitative practices.
Mm-hmm.
But the lines can be so blurred.
Right.
In fact, the UN actually prefers the term enslavement rather than trafficking.
Oh, wow.
To really drive home the severity of the human rights abuses that are happening.
That's a really powerful shift in language.
Yeah.
It makes it much more real. You're not just talking about these abstract concepts, but actual people.
Yeah, real lives.
Yeah, real lives trapped in these horrible situations.
And the numbers are really staggering.
Yeah.
I mean, just to give you one example, the International Labor Office reported back in 2017 that 1 in 7 women involved in the commercial sex industry in Europe
Wow.
is a trafficking victim.
1 in 7,
Wow.
that's a statistic that really hits home.
Yeah, it really makes you think.
Yeah, what's happening beneath the surface, even in places that we consider safe.
Right, exactly. And that's just Europe.
Right.
Globally, we're talking millions of people
Yeah.
trapped in these exploitative systems.
Mm-hmm.
And, women and girls are disproportionately affected.
Right, of course.
It's truly a global issue, and it's fueled by so many things. Globalization, open borders, the internet.
Yeah, one of the sources mentioned the Mexico-U.S. border as a prime example of this global network.
Right. It's estimated that thousands of women and children are trafficked across that border every year.
Wow.
But it's not just a developing world problem.
Right.
The sociologist Saskia Sassen talks about this global circuit where women are essentially treated as commodities, traded and exploited across international borders.
So this isn't just happening over there. It's
Right.
connected to major global cities.
Yeah.
Places we think of as safe havens, Dubai, Tokyo, even New York.
Exactly. And it's often tied to those very industries we associate with globalization.
Right.
Tourism, travel, hospitality.
Right.
Which makes it incredibly difficult to address
Yeah.
because it's so deeply intertwined with the global economy.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And then there's this whole issue of gender
Yeah.
and how economic globalization plays into this.
Mm-hmm.
One of the articles we have really delves into feminist perspectives on sex work.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's fascinating because, important to understand that a lot of women enter the sex industry knowing they were providing sexual services. But the reality they encounter is far worse than they could have imagined.
Oh, I see.
You know?
Okay.
The power dynamics are so complex and often lead to these situations of extreme exploitation.
Like that saying, things are not always what they seem.
Exactly, exactly. And so this feminist theorist, Jill Dezema,
Okay.
she really challenges this traditional narrative of like coerced innocence
Mm-hmm.
and forces us to look at the economic realities that drive women into these situations.
Yeah.
It's not always a simple case of being tricked or kidnapped.
Right.
It's often this complex interplay of factors.
Yeah.
Poverty, lack of opportunity, societal pressures.
It's so multifaceted.
Absolutely. And these economic pressures are just amplified by the sheer scale of the global sex industry.
For sure.
You know, like one UNODC report revealed that commercial sex services in Europe, which are consumed almost exclusively by men, are provided by an estimated 1 million women.
Right.
It's a multi-billion-dollar industry that thrives on exploitation and inequality.
And this brings us to a really important question.
Yeah.
What role do tourists play in perpetuating the system?
Ooh, that is the question.
Yeah, I think it's time we shift our focus to the demand side of sex tourism.
Okay, let's do it. It's really easy to focus on like the supply side when we're talking about trafficking.
Right.
But you're right. We have to consider those who are seeking out these services. Like, what are their motivations? Is there even like a typical sex tourist profile?
You would think so, right?
Yeah.
But it's way more diverse than you might imagine.
Okay.
Some research has pointed to these typologies like from the macho lads, you know?
Okay.
Looking to assert their dominance to like the white knights who believe they're somehow helping the women. They're exploiting.
It's so disturbing, like, how they justify it to themselves.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder about the role of the travel industry. Like, how much is this actively marketed?
Well, it can be really subtle, you know?
Okay.
Almost insidious. Like some destinations package sex as this exciting or exotic part of the experience.
Wow.
And weave it into their marketing materials.
That's messed up.
Yeah, and then, of course, there's the whole online world with targeted ads popping up based on your travel searches.
So creepy.
Yeah, it's like this hidden undercurrent beneath the surface of seemingly legitimate travel.
Ugh, and it's not just adults.
Right.
One statistic that really got to me was that an estimated 250,000 Australian tourists travel to Asia each year for sex with minors.
It's a horrifying reality.
Yeah.
And it forces us to confront those uncomfortable questions about personal responsibility and the complicity of the travel industry.
For sure. Like, are we as travelers doing enough to understand the consequences of our choices?
Yeah.
So are there any systems in place to protect people?
There are some efforts.
Okay.
Like the UN has this Tourism Child Protection Code of Conduct. It outlines 6 essential steps for the industry.
Okay.
From like establishing child protection policies to training employees on recognizing signs of trafficking.
So it's more proactive than reactive.
Exactly.
Is it widely adopted, though?
It's a step in the right direction.
Okay.
But it is voluntary.
Oh, okay.
And there are limitations.
Okay.
Like it primarily focuses on child protection.
Right.
Which is crucial.
Right.
But it doesn't fully address the broader issue of exploitation within the sex industry.
So there's still work to do.
Definitely.
Okay. What about other initiatives? Are there any, like, bright spots?
Yeah, there are some.
Okay.
Like some airlines have implemented training programs for their staff.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
To help them identify potential trafficking victims.
That's great. At least they're doing something.
Right. And on the ground, there are organizations like the WellHouse doing incredible work to support survivors and help them rebuild their lives.
Their website was so powerful. Those stories from survivors really highlight the trauma.
Yeah, it's a stark reminder that we're not just talking about abstract concepts or statistics.
Yeah, right.
You know, these are real people whose lives have been completely altered.
It's heartbreaking.
And it's not just about individual trauma.
Right.
There's this ripple effect that impacts entire communities.
Yeah, like what are some of the broader consequences?
Well, one of the most concerning is how it fuels the demand for commercial sex work, which in turn can contribute to an increase in trafficking.
Oh, wow. So it's like a vicious cycle.
Exactly. It's incredibly difficult to break.
So it's not just individual choices.
Right.
But understanding the systemic factors
Absolutely.
that create this environment.
Yeah, and beyond trafficking.
Okay.
Sex tourism can have this corrosive effect on local cultures and communities.
Okay.
It contributes to the objectification of women and children,
Right.
reinforces harmful gender stereotypes,
Yeah.
and can even erode traditional values and social structures.
Yeah. Wow. And it seems like it's really linked to economic inequality.
Oh, for sure.
A lot of these places
Yeah,
that are popular for sex tourism are also struggling with poverty,
absolutely.
which makes them even more vulnerable.
Right. It creates this power imbalance.
Yeah.
Where individuals might feel pressured to engage in sex work just out of necessity,
Right.
even if it's exploitative or dangerous.
And then there are the public health implications.
Yeah, the spread of STIs, including HIV, is a major concern.
It's just this complex web of issues. It's
It's-
so overwhelming.
It can feel that way.
But at least there are people fighting back,
Right.
working to support survivors and disrupt these systems.
Yeah.
Are there any initiatives or organizations that have really inspired you?
You know, there are so many. One that comes to mind is EastPat
Okay.
and child prostitution and agent tourism.
Wow, what a name.
I know, right?
Powerful.
Yeah, they're the ones behind that Tourism Child Protection Code of Conduct
Oh, right, yeah.
we were talking about, and they're really pushing for industry-wide adoption.
That's great. It's so inspiring to see organizations like that taking the lead and holding the industry accountable.
For sure.
It makes you realize, though, this isn't just like a far-off problem.
Right.
Are there similar initiatives happening here at home?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Addressing domestic sex trafficking.
Yeah, because that's a huge issue, too.
Oh, it's a critical issue and often overlooked.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
it can be hidden in plain sight.
Right. Like where?
In massage parlors,
Yeah.
escort services, even within seemingly legitimate businesses.
Wow. It's everywhere.
And it's not just about the sex industry either.
Right.
Forced labor exists in so many sectors,
Yeah, of course.
from agriculture to domestic work.
It's a good reminder that we need to be vigilant,
Yeah.
even in our own communities.
Exactly.
So, like, what can everyday people do to
I
make a
know.
difference?
It can feel overwhelming, you know,
Yeah.
when you look at the scale of these problems.
Oh.
But I truly believe that every action, no matter how small, contributes to change.
Okay, so where do we start?
Well, education is huge.
Right.
The more we understand about these issues, the better equipped we are to identify and address them.
Right. Knowledge is power.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So read articles, watch documentaries,
Yeah.
have conversations with your friends and family.
Okay.
It all helps to raise awareness and break down the stigma.
So having those uncomfortable conversations,
Yeah.
shining a light on these dark corners.
Exactly.
What about more concrete actions, though?
Well, think about your consumer choices.
Okay.
We can support businesses with ethical labor practices
Yeah.
and avoid those that contribute to exploitation.
Right.
Think about where you buy your clothes,
Yeah.
your food, the services you use.
Okay.
Do your research. Ask questions.
Yeah.
Make informed decisions that align with your values.
It's like voting with our wallets.
Exactly.
Right.
Using our purchasing power.
To support a better world.
Yes. And when we travel,
Yeah. Any tips for being more mindful tourists?
choose hotels and tour operators that have committed to combating trafficking.
Yeah.
Many have signed on to the ECPAT Code of Conduct or similar initiatives.
Right.
And just be vigilant.
Okay.
If something seems off, trust your instincts.
Yeah.
Report suspicious activity to the authorities
Okay.
or a trusted organization like the WellHouse.
So being aware of our surroundings, not turning a blind eye.
Exactly.
What about advocating for, like, systemic change?
Yeah. Political action is crucial.
Okay.
Contact your elected officials.
Right.
Urge them to support legislation that strengthens anti-trafficking efforts
Yeah.
and protects victims. Support candidates who prioritize these issues. Make your voice heard.
That's so important. Using our collective power to demand change.
Right.
Wow. This has been an intense deep dive.
It has.
We've covered so much the global scope of these issues, the
Yeah.
factors that drive them, the impact on individuals and communities.
Is heavy stuff.
Yeah, it is. But knowing that there are people out there fighting back gives me hope.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that we're not powerless.
Absolutely.
We can all do something.
So what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away from today?
I think the biggest thing is to remember that sex tourism and trafficking are not just abstract issues.
Mm-hmm.
They have real human consequences.
Right.
Behind every statistic is a story.
Of a person.
Yeah, of an individual who has been exploited and abused.
It's easy to forget that.
We have a responsibility to listen to those stories, to learn from them, and to act.
Powerful words. This deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about.
Me too.
And I hope it's done the same for you, our listeners.
Yeah.
Remember, knowledge is power. Keep learning, keep questioning, and keep taking action to make the world a better place. Thanks for joining us.